hidden between the lines of the U.S. Constitution may be a protection of what we would today call the homeless and former criminals. Though in the late 1700s they were referred to as paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice. This is an example of something that's not explicitly written in the Constitution and yet is sort of inherent between its lines. One of the basic rules of interpreting law is that you can get a lot of information by looking at a prior version of the same law. So if a big change was made to the law in, say, 2023, by looking at the 2022 edition and seeing what changes were made, you can get a lot of information about what changes were intended in the 2023 revision. And so by looking at lines in the U.S. Constitution that are really closely based on lines in the Articles of Confederation, which was the agreement that preceded it, the little changes that are made can tell you a lot about what was important to the people at the time when they drafted the Constitution. Let's take a look at Article 4, Section 2 real quick. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all of the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. It's basically telling you that certain things that get done for you in one state apply to you in other states too. One of the best examples is if you get married in Georgia, your marriage also applies in Maryland. But this is based on Article 4 of the Articles of Confederation, which says almost the same thing, but way longer. I'm not going to bother reading the whole thing, but here's one little part. So instead of saying the citizens of each state, it says the free inhabitants of these states, which is an interesting thing. I'm not going to go into that right now. But really importantly, it says the free inhabitants of each state, paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice excepted. So basically it says everybody except for poor people and fugitives from justice shall be entitled to the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the other states. Now there is an old legal concept in America that we don't believe in debtors' prisons here. In England, you could actually be put in jail for not paying your debts, and we don't allow that. But this is really an extra level. They were going to say basically that you didn't get as many rights if you were poor. And really you didn't, because individual states often wouldn't give you the right to vote if you didn't own property, but that's a whole other thing. But by removing this line, by taking out the things that says paupers, vagabonds, and fugitives from justice are accepted from this when they wrote the final Constitution, they are very explicitly saying that this applies to everybody, not just people with money. Everybody in the United States is explicitly a citizen and is explicitly part of this constitutional agreement. Now, were they really applying this evenly? No. But the philosophy's there. I gotta give it to them. They really took a big step here. And as a result of this, there may be a pretty solid argument that rights for homeless people, rights of poor people, and rights of, for example, prior felons may be written into the original Constitution, even though it's not explicitly written. Now, as far as I know, this hasn't been necessarily played out in the courts or anything like that. But for several months, I've been researching the changes between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution as we ended up with it, because I think a lot of these might be really interesting to see as we figure out sort of where we are today. And this is just a really, I think, fascinating piece of that puzzle. So, let me know what you think. What would have been the implications if we had left that language in? Could a line like that have survived modern times? How would that have shaken out? Let me know what you think.